Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day two of Accenture Data and AI Week. It's an action-packed day, and we're diving deep into the theme of AI in action, transforming industries today. And we're excited to explore how generative artificial intelligence is making invention real in various sectors. I'm Govindra Jatiraj, a financial journalist and entrepreneur who will be moderating today's sessions. While yesterday was about vision and revolution, today we're rolling up our sleeves and diving into real-world impact, how AI is being embedded into the very fabric of industry. We have a fantastic lineup of sessions and experts who will share how generative AI is not just a theoretical concept, but a powerful tool driving real world innovation and, of course, with the power of data. Today, we will learn about how AI is applied to solve complex problems and create new opportunities. So join us and stay with us as we delve into the latest advancements, hear success stories, and discover practical ways to integrate AI into your own business. So let's make this a day of inspiration and action. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore how AI is making a tangible impact right now. With us today, we have Gopali Contractor, lead for Center of Advanced AI at Accenture's Advanced Technology Centers Global Network. She has over 25 years of experience in the industry and has a background deeply rooted in data and AI. During her 10 years at Accenture, Gopali has played a crucial role in establishing Accenture's Center for Advanced AI in India and now oversees its operations across the company's Advanced Technology Centers global network. Now, she's going to unpack how aligning leadership, investing in talent, and building a strong digital core are helping businesses unlock ROI or return on investment from Gen AI investments. It's over to you, Gopali.
Thank you so much, Govind. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. An exciting topic, of course, to talk about. But before that, this is Gopali. I lead the Center for Advanced AI across the GN network, the ATC GN network. Very exciting job I have because every Monday morning I wake up to find another large language model out there that we need to think about, that we need to assess, that we need to take to our clients. So it's a job that keeps me awake, definitely, not for 24 hours a day, but for a large part of my day, a job that gets me excited. And I'm glad to be in this role because it is truly a dream come true to see AI and Gen AI come to scale that it is as of now. With that, we'll come quickly to the topic, and it reminds me of where we were about 25 years back, right? All of us have traveled, and all of us, or most of us, have used travel agents to book our tickets. And it was, the corner store travel agent that we would go to for multiple reasons. It would be because we trust the person, because our family trusts the person, because our friends have trusted the person. He's given the best price ever, or she has given the best route ever. I love to have a hop if I'm traveling to the US. So if that's my preference, he takes care of it. If my preference is go direct and not have a hop, which is also sometimes a preference that I'd like, he would also be able to take care of it. So you have this person out there who's helping you with your preferences, knows who you are very intuitively. There is no analytics, or there is no AI system that he used 25 years back to get it. It was pure intuition, pure experience, and purely the interaction that he had with you. And the reason why you went back to him, because the experience was amazing, the customer experience, he got you a good price. And he was very, very dependable, right? To say that if I need to cancel my trip, I can always go back to him and cancel my trip. Now, fast forward 25 years, and where are we, right, in terms of how we're going to be running our businesses? It's a whole different world now. About 2 years back, we call it either the iPhone moment or the inflection point of AI, where all of our world changed in a matter of, a few days, and it was almost overnight. And I remember getting a call from my boss to say, Gopali, get on this bandwagon, right? And the bandwagon has ever since just been a fast-moving train, a bullet train, or a Concorde, wherein, we are bringing people on the bandwagon, and of course, most importantly, our clients. But we are telling our clients that we are not only talking automation, we are not only talking efficiencies or productivity, we are saying, let's step back and see how we can actually reinvent the way we are doing our business, which means reinvent the business process, reinvent the way we interact with technology, reinvent the roles that we as humans have as part of this ecosystem. So it's a very holistic way of looking at it, and we need to kind of break barriers in our head and in our ecosystem to say how can we reimagine completely the way we're doing it. So imagine now the travel agent being an agent, a digital agent, an AI agent that does all of it for you and much, much more, because now that agent or has access to much, much more data, has access to much, much more sites, has access to all my Facebook accounts and my Insta accounts and my feeds and my travel history and what I like to eat versus what I don't like to eat, et cetera, right? So imagine that scenario when the data is much more richer than any human brain can comprehend or process. The data sources are much, much more, given that we are all on the web, right? Can we imagine a day without a cell phone? No, we can't, right? So we are creating data every day as we go along. So it's changed the world completely. It took us completely by a storm, and here we are, and super excited to be on this journey with our clients to reinvent what it looks like, right? So it is about making invention very, very real with Gen AI. And we're seeing this across our clients and across whatever conversations we've had, right? Now, I'd like to step back and say, what are the 5 things that we should be thinking about or talking about as we think about reinventing the business process? Any reinvention, any productivity gains, any efficiencies, there's always a bottom line, and we're always very, very close to what the business wants, right? So the first questions that our clients ask are lead with value, right? What does that really mean? So what if I infuse Gen AI or agentic architectures into my business process? What is the value that I'm going to get out of it, right? Not an easy question to answer, but that question has to be addressed in the beginning, which means you need to align top leadership to this question. We need to set measurable goals so that we are not going astray. And of course, how do you bring in the ROI much, much more and much, much more faster as we bring in Gen AI in our enterprise? So that's your lead with value. Very, very important. What is the value that I'm going to get from AI and Gen AI? What's the second piece we are constantly talking to our clients and thinking about is your digital core is changing as we go along. So what do we need to do, right? And how is that change? Come the pandemic, we saw firms going from on-prem to cloud very, very quickly, right? So everybody was cloud enabled. A lot of firms were cloud enabled during the pandemic. The second piece that we saw going was the data went from on-prem to cloud, right? So there was a huge data migration that was happening, and a lot of it done by our team here, right? And then what, right? So your architecture is changing. You're on a hybrid setup. It could be on-prem or cloud setup, and your data is on cloud. And now how do you use this data? So you're talking about this digital core or your platform architecture being super, super agile, where it's constantly changing to add AI to it, to add ML to it, so we could use the data that has been now, put it onto the cloud, and now Gen AI and agentic architecture. So it's never the case that now that we've built a platform of the enterprise, we're going to look at it for 20 years and then nothing's going to change about it, right? We're saying it's going to be on the mend as we go on this journey. Today, we are with agentic architectures. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So the enterprise has to be super AI enabled. It cannot be rules based, and it has to be super secure. So that's the second point. Need to build an AI enabled secure digital core. Very, very important as we go through it. The third piece is a no-brainer, and we all know it. So closing the gap with responsible AI. Anything and everything we do for AI and Gen AI has to be responsible. It could be responsible in the context of bringing a human into the loop in our business processes as a checker to say, yes, all of the work that agents did in the background was the right thing, and or bringing in tools or embedding responsible AI principles throughout the cycle to see that we are, not deviating from what is really needed for that organization and very holistically speaking for the human race as well. That's your third thing, close the gap with responsible AI. Talent and ways of working. I mentioned this earlier. We've changed our roles completely, in terms of how we have evolved in the world of AI and Gen AI. So first, it's about, the talent that we need. Gen AI talent wasn't readily available in the market. So we had to reskill, upskill a lot of our current workforce to be able to learn this technology very quickly because it's moving at a super fast rate, right? But the second piece, ways of working, that travel agent that I went to 25 years back has to change his ways of working to be in the race, right? Has to be able to use Gen AI for some of the things that he used, maybe did it, by hand, right? So his role in the agency has changed completely. He brings in a lot more experience, but mundane tasks or even tasks that need a lot of data gathering can be left to something like Gen AI. So his role has evolved completely, and so have our roles. And I always quote this amazing thing I heard from Jensen at the NVIDIA AI Summit here in India, Mumbai, and I was sitting right in front when he talked about it, is that this is an elephant in the room that nobody wants to address in some places, but we need to address it because it's not about losing your job or not having work in the future. It's about adoption. Now, think about it. 80%, potentially 80% of my workday in the next 5 years will be Gen AI enabled. But that 20% of Gopali still stays, right? So that's not going to change. And no AI, Gen AI system is going to take over that 20%. That's really, truly me, correct? Now, think about the fact that if I were not to adopt a technology just such as Gen AI to do my daily job, I'm not going to be relevant anymore. So it's about, adoption. People who will adopt a technology such as Gen AI will continue to be relevant, but people who will not adopt it will become irrelevant. So I think, grab this by the horns and skill up and build up in the context of the job that you're doing as quickly as possible. So that's your talent and ways of working. And the last but not least, which is again a no-brainer, is driving continuous reinvention. As I said, every Monday morning, we wake up to another model in the market. And how do we bring this change of technology back into our clients, back into what we're doing from a technology standpoint and for the businesses, right? It is an ongoing journey. Your digital core has to constantly change. What the tools available in the market are changing continuously. So you not need to continuously drive reinvention and be very, very adaptable as an organization in order to infuse these new technologies that are coming in the market. And that's your last point, which is drive continuous reinvention. So all in all, I think very, very important conversation to have, and these are very five critical points that we talk about. One is lead with value. That's a no-brainer. Second is build an AI-enabled secure digital core. Third is closing the gap with responsible AI. Fourth is talent and ways of working needs to address, how it changes the human role in this whole process. And last but not least is be adaptable in terms of driving continuous reinvention in your enterprise as we go through it. So we've been living in very, very interesting and exciting times. I always pinch myself, and sometimes it's unbelievable that I've seen this kind of an AI revolution in my lifetime. I always thought it should be like this and it should be at scale. I always talk about myself as born in data and raised in AI. So it's, for me personally, it's absolutely a sweet success to see the attention that AI is getting, and professionally, it doesn't do any harm either, right? So very happy to be in the center, in the epicenter of what we call as a Gen AI revolution. And it's not only a technology revolution, it's affecting all our lives, it's affecting all our businesses, and we need to get on quickly onto the bandwagon if we really haven't yet. So that's all I had for today. Hope it was helpful. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Gopali, and thank you for being there for us, both the 80% and the 20%. And it's interesting that you said it's not a bandwagon; it's a bullet train, and people have to think about how or at what speed they get onto it in order to reach the destination that everyone wants to reach. And thank you for also summing up those five very critical points, which range from digital core to being super AI enabled, closing the gap with responsible AI, and of course, continuous reinvention, all driven by people who are 20% going to be consistent all through. And that's, I guess, the gratifying part of it, that we will eventually, it'll be us or the humans who are driving it. So thank you also for highlighting that the real invention lies in not just in ideation, but in leadership, infrastructure, and people readiness. And that's, of course, a clear reminder that scaling AI is a team sport. So now is the time to move on to our exciting and insightful panel discussion that will delve into the practical applications of AI across various industries. Our panelists are leaders in their fields, and they will share their experiences, insights, and real-world impact of AI. They will also talk about the challenges, opportunities, and offer actionable insights about how data and AI is transforming industries for obviously a better future. So whether you're a tech enthusiast, a business leader, or just curious about the future of AI, this is the session that you do not want to miss. So let's dive in and see how AI is truly transforming industries today. So joining me to do that, Ashish Sharma, Managing Director of Data and AI and leads AI initiatives for the financial services industry at Accenture Strategy and Consulting Global Network. He has 25 years of experience as an AI professional and entrepreneur, and he helps enterprises reimagine their businesses through AI to deliver superior customer experiences and profitability. He works closely with large global banks and insurance firms to guide them through their digital transformation journeys. Ashwin James Christie Nayagam from Click. He heads their global systems integrator partner engineering or GSI partner engineering, and he leads the business and technical ecosystem development for Click's global system integrator partners. He's a data engineer at heart, runs communities, and he's passionate about helping customers and partners build reliable AI foundations powered through composable data architectures. As a committed community champion, he actively contributes to the data ecosystem by evangelizing emerging trends through community initiatives and podcasts. And finally, Vijayant Rai, Managing Director at Snowflake India. He drives business growth and the go-to-market strategy for Snowflake in India. He leads the charter to partner with customers across various industry sectors in India, guiding them through their data and AI-led business transformations. He has over 27 years of experience in global tech or other technology companies, and a proven track record of building and running high-performance businesses, delivering customer success and fostering innovation. All of them will break down how industry-specific models and responsible AI are changing the way we operate. So before we dive in, remember, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the discussion. So please feel free to type your questions in the window you see at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to as many of them as soon as we can. So thank you all for joining me. And what I'm going to do is ask each of our panelists to speak for a couple of minutes on the theme of AI in action and transforming industries today. So action, transformation, both are very critical keywords. And post which we will go into our discussion. So Ashish, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Fantastic. Thank you, Govind. It's a pleasure to be engaging with everyone this morning. I think as a practitioner, when I started this journey about 25 years back, around the same time, there's never been a better time for AI. And really, the reason I say this is if you step back and look at where we were in terms of just algorithmic capabilities and technology, we were focused on understanding patterns, understanding the math, the structured data, and the quants. Gen AI and large language models have opened up the ability to start interacting, engaging, understanding the way humans do. And what that's doing, Govind, is really opening up a completely untapped territory of starting to make machines not just intelligent, but also the ability for them to communicate and engage in a manner that humans would love to. And that's what is taking the whole travel agent experience that Gopali talked about to the next level. And if you see today, just going back to AI in action, almost everybody, if you speak to about the global CXOs, and we just did a study for about 2,000 global leaders across the largest companies globally, 85% of them are already putting things in action from an AI, Gen AI transformation perspective. So this is beyond, is this important? Will this bring value to a point where everybody's starting to think about not just enterprises, but also government as to how do I harness the possibilities? And that's where the discussion this morning is really exciting, because it's really about what do we need to do? How do we need to do? Where do we learn from as to what works? And that's really what is energizing for all of us in this space at this point in time. For all of you listening in, we're going to be becoming part of this industry over the next few years. So excited to be here and look forward to our discussion, Govind.
Thanks, Ashish. Let me throw a question at you right away. So what are the kind of industries where you feel the transformation is the most visible and palpable from your vantage point again?
Sure. So I think I'll just first list out the industry and give you a little bit of sense of what's happening. And very interesting industries, different from what we would have seen in earlier waves of transformation. For example, life sciences stands out. And again, this is a study that we've published. For those in the audience can go back and look at the front-runner study that just got recently published. Life sciences stands out. Utilities stands out. Insurance are really the leaders. About 10 to 15% of those companies are leading the pack when the overall average is about 8%. And Govind, what's driving really some of that, if you think about it, is you can think of AI in two ways. You can think of AI as a productivity booster, as a capability, as a super pill that everybody in the enterprise should have, an enabler we as users would like to have, like our ability to summarize meetings, our ability to define action items, all of that. That's productivity. Working more efficiently, being smarter about it. And that's what we call as table stakes in our world, in our language. But then you can use AI to completely change the game, to reinvent the way we work, reinvent the way enterprises engage with customers. And that's what is starting to differentiate the front runners, because they're starting to take strategic bets that can make that a competitive differentiator. And what life sciences companies, for example, are doing is starting to think about how do you shorten the cycle time for R&D, get drug discovery quicker with greater predictability and success. Insurance companies are starting to think about how do I get claims processed quickly? Or how do I underwrite and cherry pick portfolios that are far more amenable to our risk appetite that we would want to take as an insurance company? So entities that are starting to use AI as a strategic lever are starting to see a lot more success, and they're starting to drive a lot more action, and which is what makes these three industries stand out in what they're seeing in the use of AI.
Right, that's very useful and gives us a sense of foundation, Ashish. Ashwin, it's over to you.
Great. So firstly, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I come from Click. And one of the things that we do here is help customers set a solid foundation. Now, as part of AI transformation, see, we all understand AI is definitely transformational. Every industry is going to embrace it without a doubt. And I think we're going through a cultural shift across different organizations, again, depending on the maturity of the organization. People have started embracing AI full stack. People are starting as an experiment, pilot, POC. But I think across the board, transformation is becoming a reality. And one of the things that we observe, and part of my job here working with partners and customers in close quarters, is the importance of a very, very solid AI foundation that helps embrace and be successful in AI initiatives. I was bumping into this article or a podcast that Mark Benioff did over the weekend, and this is from SaaStr. If you have time to look into it, he stresses the importance of legacy data. We heard from Ashish, we heard from Gopali around the possibility of unstructured data, machine data, etc. But most enterprises live on structured data as well. Majority of them still locked into structured data, documents, everything included, right? I'm saying structured plus some of the unstructured data, making that actionable, making that workable, making that trackable, making it trustable for an AI agent to start working. I think that's where magic happens. And I think that's where some of the bottlenecks that we are observing as part of the transformation as well. I agree with Ashish as well. Life sciences, banking, manufacturing, across the board, and primarily go-to-market teams as a start. That's where we see a lot of early success stories coming in, and heading on into other verticals and other vertical functions within the organizations as well, right? So one question that I want to leave the audience with, right, before deciding what you want to do with AI, also think about what is AI eating for breakfast? What is my AI model and agent looking into and consuming, which is all the more important to drive very predictable outcomes, right? Because you're no longer building a deterministic system. We're building a more probabilistic system, a stochastic system that has to work autonomous, and that's more important. Look at what your AI agent is consuming for breakfast.
Right, Ashwin, you highlighted the importance of legacy data, and there seems to be an implicit suggestion that people are ignoring what their legacy data can do, or are unable to mine it effectively and integrate it with their structured data. So, any examples that illustrate this? I mean, could it be, for example, an oil and gas company sitting on 80 years of data, but only working on, let's say, 15 or 20 actively?
I think let's split the conversations in two parts, right? So most customers have analytical workloads that are happening today. So dashboarding to analytical models that are pretty much running across the industry. Now, the AI experiments are very unique. The AI experiments started with a lot of unstructured data coming. I think we all naturally starting with unstructured agents, ChatGPT, etc. That's where we started off with. Most of the AI experiments started with unstructured data. Now, as we started moving into production and we wanted those to be used for decision making, whether it's oil and gas, banking, we now start to see a traction where, hey, I need that structured information lying in Salesforce. I need a structured information lying on top of Snowflake to action and complete the loop. And that becomes very important now. It was always important. It was never ignored. Together with Accenture, Snowflake, we've done plenty of projects helping drive that decision making. Just that the deterministic nature of that process was very easy. Now, when it becomes probabilistic, you're dealing with structured, combining that with unstructured information, semi-structured information, call center logs, all of that makes it a lot more complicated. And that's where a solid AI foundation comes into picture. That data foundation layer becomes all the more important. And we have seen customers across industries, right? And let me not take any specific industry here because I interact with customers across every industry segment. Across the board, what people are looking at is re-architecting and forming the digital core that Gopali focused on, right? We had systems. There's no we cannot ignore the fact that customers and companies and organizations have made tons of investment in building their core today. We have to just re-architect that core so that we are able to embrace newer models, newer use cases that are coming up almost every single week, right? So that re-architecture is something that's happening. One of the things that I've seen customers re-architect, for example, is open lakehouses, bringing in structured and unstructured into a common unique lakehouse, and then building their core from there. So one of the things that we also do with Snowflake since Vijayant is here is Iceberg as a format that we have embraced. And most of our customers are also talking to us about it, where we say, hey, let's build an open lakehouse, and on top of it is where we'll build a model layer, our agentic architecture, everything sits off that. So this solves what I call as a typical data problem. You should definitely look into the podcast for folks watching this podcast as well. Look into the podcast that Mark did over the weekend. And that's a fantastic illustration of the challenges with deployments of agents and the practical implications of not bringing the right data for agents to start working on, right? So that's one observation I would like to make.
Right, and that obviously throws up the opportunity pathway as well, or several rather opportunity pathways. Vijayant, it's over to you.
Hey, thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank Accenture for having all of us, in this wonderful conversation today morning. Govind, thank you. And I was hearing intently to all our speakers earlier. If you look back with the advent of generative AI, which was I think November 22, it's very interesting. I mean, I did my engineering sometime in the 90s. And we had AI as a subject even then. And so AI has been around for a very, very long time. And, it was very interesting to see that when Gen AI came by, all of a sudden, what changed? And I think what changed was that, it gave the power of artificial intelligence into the hands of people, right? Obviously, the first things which happened was, people writing, getting poetry out of it and images and all of that. But, even at that point of time, when I was in Microsoft that time, heading the financial services business for them, the banks were rushing in to understand the power of what this could do. So everybody, it was a board level conversation very soon where they realized that this is going to fundamentally change businesses, fundamentally change employee experiences, customer experiences, everything. So initially, when I look back from 22 November onwards, if you look at the year after that, possibly we saw a whole amount of POCs and experimentations, where people trying to figure out as to with a technology like this, with these LLMs coming by, what are probably the best places to go and which use cases to light up. So that's what we saw probably in 23, a lot of POCs, etc. happening. Last year, we started seeing a lot of systems coming to production as well. Obviously the first ones, like Ashwin mentioned, were a lot of it was to do with, chatbots and those frameworks, which you could, possibly get going fast. There's always this element of, there's an underlying element, right? And Gopali mentioned it, you mentioned it as well, data and AI. It's now sort of synonymous. They go hand in hand. As Snowflake, as a company which sort of, is born in the cloud, looks at data, in the closest fashion possible. It's data is fundamental to AI outcomes. And that's something we found, as companies are trying to race to get outcomes from AI, they're finding that they need to fix a lot of things on the foundational side of stuff, which is essentially having your data estates in a form, shape, that it can be trusted, it can be governed, it can be secure, so you can then get AI outputs out of it. So you saw a lot of use cases coming through last year. I think there's no doubt that there's going to be even bigger outcomes coming by from the work which is happening across industries. It's interesting to hear Ashish talk about the different industries where we're seeing transformation happening. Healthcare, we are seeing the same. We're seeing in healthcare, we're seeing in utilities, we're seeing in financial services, pretty much all industries, like Ashwin mentioned. They are a lot of them are experimenting, a lot of them are moving to production in areas as well. But at the same time, it's important to understand that there's no magic wand with generative AI as well. The large language models are amazing in terms of now bringing unstructured data to the conversation, right? We had this series called Data for Breakfast, which we do across the globe. We had it in India some time back, and we had the Snowflake founders here. So Benoit and Thierry, the folks who created the platform. And Benoit mentioned that, what Snowflake did, for example, for data, taking it to the cloud, providing elasticity and all of that, that's what LLMs are going to do for unstructured data, right? So, I mean, if you look back, in November 22 onwards, about 80% of the world's data moved to the cloud all of a sudden. And this is because these LLMs had to be trained, they needed a huge amount of data, all of that happening there. So you can also imagine the complexity companies are dealing with. So today, you have this amazing technology, boards want you to do something with it, you want to stay ahead, but you also have, if you're a legacy organization, you're dealing with a whole lot of underlying factors. What are the data sources? How do you bring it in? How do you manage it? How do you secure it? All of that. So that is where I see there's also a massive role which, partners like Accenture play, right? Because they actually advise customers on an overall strategy for data and AI. Not only for today, but for tomorrow. Then, of course, you have the aspect of skilling, which is so important, right? You still need to have the right people trained for these technologies to get the most out of the data which you have and for the use cases you're trying to get out of it. So exciting times, definitely, as we see across us, amazing, examples there. We're seeing some examples in India, globally, where people are, getting amazing use cases out there. Unstructured data, like Ashwin talked about, insurance. We've seen that in India as well. We're one of the largest, insurers out here, experimenting and even looking at deploying our Cortex AI framework for, unstructured data and getting very specific use cases out of that. So exciting times, and I guess it's all to play for.
Right, thanks for that, Vijay. So I know you've stressed quite heavily on the importance of data for AI outcomes. Now, is there an illustration that to you maybe gives us an insight of how things could go well, or how, I won't say how things could go badly, but how things may not move as fast as you would like because you've not fixed this part? I mean, any illustration, sort of semi-real life, part real life?
Yeah, the good thing is, data has got an acceleration, Govind, because of the whole generative AI paradigm around it, saying that, if you really want to get outcomes, you need to have your data in the right shape. You need to be pumping the data in from the right places. And now you have unstructured data as well. So how do you factor that? So, when we look at really unlocking the value of data, there are probably three parts to it. The first is, if you look at legacy organizations, is breaking the data silos. How do you break your data silos, bring it all together in one place? Easier said than done. I mean, we were doing this. We are doing this massive transformation for a very large, company in India, and we just getting the data together is not an easy thing. I mean, data is also looked strategically by organizations and people who own it internally. So, culturally, giving it away and allowing it to, say, for an HR person agreeing to say, okay, what, I'm okay to get my data lake or HR data into the lake along with the sales data, etc. Now, that itself is an exercise in its own, right? And it takes a lot of effort to make that happen. And that's where a lot of partners do come in to sort of work out the process part of it. So one is breaking the data silos. The second leverage you get out of your data is the ability to share your data with your ecosystem partners. And that's a big thing. That's where you start getting more insights, analytics out of it. And the third is, if you're actually able to create data sets of your own and monetize that, or use third-party data sets to enrich your own data. So the data unlock happens in these three phases of maturity, in my mind. And we are seeing a lot of examples of that across India as well, where people are now getting a fix of it. On the other hand, you have digital natives, right? Born in the cloud companies. They didn't have this legacy at all. And you can just see the amazing work, some of the largest unicorns are doing in India with data and AI, and the scale at which they operate. To Ashwin's point, how do you actually then have a strategy where with these mountains of data, you use Iceberg as a strategy for, storing some of it, keeping the other stuff on the cloud. All of that, comes into picture here.
So if I were
just double
to
clicking on Vijay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if I were the CEO of let's say an insurance company, legacy insurance company, Vijay, this is to you, and I would say that last 20 years or so, all my information and data, or most of it is accessible. It's sitting on a cloud. We have a core data architecture. But of course, I'm maybe a 80-year-old company, and there is 60 years of data before that. So what would you tell that CEO, he or she, as to why they should be working on that 60 years to unlock it and make the whole proposition stronger?
Yeah, great point, Govind. Because I mean, you might say, let me just start new, right on top.
Yeah.
Why bother about what we have?
Yeah.
Those are systems of records, for example. May be lying in some core insurance systems and other places. But and I'll give you a live example. So Bajaj Allianz General Insurance is a referenceable customer of ours. They did this journey. Now, if you know that they are the largest general insurance company in the country, they have served over 140 million customers. So you can imagine there is that richness of data lying right in their different systems, their systems of customer engagement, their core systems, etc., which has so much attributes of the person and his journey over the years. So just imagine the unlock, which they can do, and they realize that a lot of companies realize that we do understand you can get a lot of structured, unstructured data, social media data, and all of that, but there is this wealth of data lying in your own systems, which if you can bring to one place itself is a massive unlock. Because then you can start getting insights and analytics, you can serve your customers better, all of that. So that's exactly what we do with a lot of legacy, organizations and enterprises. They're sitting on a wealth of data. The message to them is to see how can you break those silos, bring it together, and then start looking at different outcomes across your businesses. It could be in case of insurance, it could be underwriting, it could be customer experience, all of that risk management comes into picture, and you can do it a lot better because now you have everything together versus system, the whole thing lying in different systems there. So just the unlock of getting your customers' data, the ability to create a real customer 360 is much cliched, but very tough to do, honestly, is a big unlock we believe everybody has.
Right. And Mukesh, could I put the same question to you? If you were to talk to me as a CEO of an insurance company or a legacy company, maybe in manufacturing, maybe in services, what is the incentive, the real incentive for me to invest in a way that I'm able to create or rather unlock these massive data sets or data warehouses that are lying around, but not in plain sight?
I'll go, Ashwin, and then Ashwin, you can sort of come in as well.
Yeah.
So Govind, one of the ways to think about this is over the years, organizations have built and captured a lot of knowledge that is tacit and contextual and subjective that's lying in wealth of documents that hitherto have been untapped. And if you look at it, I mean, based on the study that we had done, anywhere between 70 to 90% of such data has not been harnessed at this point by enterprises. And what Gen AI is doing, obviously, one way to think about it is we need this data for Gen AI. The other way to think about this is Gen AI can also accelerate our ability to harness this data, which means Gen AI can, to the point Vijay made, unlock these silos a lot more quickly because you've got technology that can sort of read this information, technology that can start connecting through graphs, etc., these capabilities to reduce the time it takes for us to make this data consumable. So going back to your point, Govind, effectively, you think about from a CEO's perspective, if you were to unlock the contextual knowledge that the enterprise has gathered, for a life sciences firm, it's about what drugs worked, why did they become blockbusters, what was in it in the R&D phase that we did and learned that allowed us to get to this success. In some cases, this could be 20 years out because drug discovery takes that many long years to get to it. In the case of utilities, it could be understanding of their assets, large infrastructure assets that are energy generators, utilities, turbines, etc., which allows us to maintain and improve the predictability, the uptime, the availability of those devices. So there's a lot that's sitting which wasn't structured and has not been brought into systems of record at this point because it was not critical to raise bills or service our customers on a day-to-day basis. And that's really what you're talking about unlocking in this process.
Right. So,
I think
Ashish,
I agree with Ashish as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Just adding one point, Govind. I think unlocking that legacy data is a key enabler. And I think I was coming on a similar example, particularly in clinical trials, right? A lot of clinical trial data goes waste, doesn't reach the FDA approval. There's a lot of data when they do that entire subject analysis, CDISC studies and VSAM studies and all of that. So there's a lot of study data that's lying there, that unlocking that documented data over 30, 40 years helps us with drug discovery and all of those set of use cases. And similarly on insurance, right? Behavioral pattern is one reason why customers are looking at unlocking those historical legacy data that may or may not make sense. And last but not the least, we all use Google Photos, right? So, and Google Photos, if you go onto the Pro version, has a lot of AI functionalities that helps you to optimize, delete photos and all of that. I think, should we also look at AI, Gen AI tools to also see what value does these data even hold in the first place for me to even work or even discard them, right? So I think that's a capability, and I think we are at that level of maturity that we can use AI, Gen AI to unlock that set of attributes as well.
Right, and all of you have used or alluded to life sciences as a key example, driving some of these themes that we're talking about today. And we're talking about transformation, and we're talking about AI in action. So, why is it that, I mean, and Ashwin, you in a way sort of addressed or answered that question, but let me reiterate that because it allows people to understand why this is happening. So why is it that life sciences is leading this race compared to anyone else? Is it an internal thing? I mean, are, let's say, the leadership of life sciences or healthcare companies more alert to the advantages of AI and technology? Or is it because the competitive pressure or the desire to find solutions to solve real problems that humanity is facing is so strong that they will go for any solution that could help them in that journey?
I would not single out life sciences as a only industry vertical, but across the board, I also see heavy use cases coming from insurance as well. A lot of these onboarding and process automation over there also is happening at a scale that is unprecedented of, unheard of over the last years, right? So I think life sciences in particular comes out very uniquely because it impacts humanity and faster turnaround drug discovery for potential problems, and also uncovering patterns that were humanly not possible to uncover from the past data, right? So that's one major use case that I see coming out of life sciences. Some of them are still early experimentation, right? And there are more on the modeling side as well. There are more sophisticated models that are being developed, particularly primarily addressing pharma and life science companies as well. So there's a lot of maturity happening on that space.
Right. So if I were to pose the question about transformation and say that, okay, if you want to really as a company uncover patterns and dive into patterns which will help you understand consumer behavior, consumer response, and thus fashion your product or service for today, is that the key reason, or could there be other things as well? And Mukesh, can you go first?
Sure, Govind. So the way, and it goes back to the 5 imperatives that Gopali sort of talked about, and Govind, if you unwind the clock and go back, 2.5 years back, AI started becoming mainstream with LLMs. A lot of companies started experimenting. We call them POCs, just testing out what does this mean, et cetera, et cetera. Where is value? Does this work? But the key to be able to scale with AI, and scale is not just production, scale is being able to see outcomes and embed this across the enterprise. What we've seen work is ultimately a clear strategic rationale as to why would you want to use AI in a certain part of your business, and what would change in terms of your business, either in terms of how you engage with customers, how you deliver your product and service, or the cost of doing it, or your risk and compliance to be able to address. One or some of these strategic objectives have to align to why we're embedding AI into those processes. So going back to your question, why some of these industries are front runners, and agree with Ashwin, there are a few of them that are actually doing very well: banking, insurance, life sciences, utilities, comms and media. But more importantly, the reason they're doing well is because they've been able to clearly identify strategic areas where use of AI will create a long-term competitive advantage for them in terms of improving their financial outcomes, their customer experience outcomes. And that's the key. So before you embark on when we work with our clients, our key to them is, and we talk about, it's not just about a technology that needs to be taken to production. We have to think about this as a more powerful capability that's going to reimagine our work and change the way we engage. And hence, it's critical that we have, and which is why I call it lead with value. The first question you need to answer is, where is the value, and how will you harness that value and realize that value over a period of time?
And in your conversations with companies and clients, what do they want first? I mean, I think we've covered some of them. And people want efficiency, people want to cut costs, people want to keep up with their competition. But transformation may or may not be a stated objective. Transformation could be an outcome of doing all of this and applying AI in the manner that we've been talking about. But how would you, where do you see, businesses or companies positioning or rather pegging transformation?
Two extremes. There are the ones who are focused on productivity. And that's a big driver. And we call it table stakes because there are many ways you can get to productivity, making a consultant do better, quicker, smarter, reducing the cost to develop a software, reducing the cost to migrate, reducing the cost to unlock data silos. These are all when you think of productivity, it's not just about man hours saved, it's about speed to value, right? If you could do this in 2 months, then taking 2 years, it's not just about the time and effort that you're saving, it's also about how quickly you're getting there, so one, the biggest clear driver is productivity. We call them table stakes in the sense that's something you have to do. If you don't, you start lag behind your competition. And it's proven. This is why it's table stakes in the sense, from our experience of having done this in about 2,500 plus programs over the last 6 quarters, we know where there is value in these table stakes. So that's number one. But then the second, we call it strategic bets because the operative word bets. Top-down CXOs need to take a call as to what are 1 or 2 big areas that will change the play for them. And that I'm seeing largely driven by growth aspirations. Can I grow faster than competition in a profitable manner? And that's really what's driving those decisions. So to me, it's productivity and growth as 2 of the biggest levers.
Right. Vijayant, you do work with a lot of digital native companies, and obviously you also work with older companies. If I was a young engineer or wanting to enter the workforce, who would you think I should work with between the two to ground myself in an AI environment that has long-term potential? First.
That's a great question, by the way. Almost tricky. But honestly, I think, and I'll try and balance it off as much as I can. Digital natives work in a very cutting edge environment, right? I mean, fact of the matter is they're born in the cloud. They're always looking at newer technologies, best of breed technologies to bring in, something which gives them advantage. They also have the advantage, Govind, that most of them are almost engineering companies, right? They're run by founders who are typically engineers themselves. They understand the space very well. So their ability to actually bring in and adopt technology is excellent there. And you get to work with all of that. The other side of it, the flip side is, if you look at the enterprises, the beauty there is, they work with again amazing systems which have been around. So it could be SAP, it could be Oracle, it could be different core systems which you have in different industries. So the ability there and the ability to then look at complexity and manage that, probably gives you a very, very rich experience, right? So think of it this way, that you go and work in a bank. They're trying to migrate out of Netezza or Greenplum or one of those legacy systems you have for data. That itself is a massive learning. It also gives you learnings in terms of people and processes as well, right? Because that's where it exists. So if you are looking to groom yourself as a future leader and in very complex environment, legacy organizations probably give you a better healing of that, because you'll have to be patient, you'll have to be learning all the time, managing. So I mean, it's a very different paradigm between both of them, and both of them I would think have merits if you look at it.
Okay, that's
I
a
would
nice.
just add on to that as well, right? So I would say, I think today we are at a point where I think the individual here can chart his own career path, right? Doesn't matter whether you're a digital native tech company or let's say a company sitting with legacy data. Let's not call them legacy companies, right? So across the board with the tools that we have, right? So if you go into your manager, whichever company that you're working for, and tell him, hey, by doing XYZ, I can bring in productivity gain, right? So I can write faster, deploy faster, I can ship faster. They're not going to say no, right? Prove the value and understand the business process. I think one thing that stands out, right? I'm friends with a couple of these VC communities also. Like when people go for funding, it's tech led, but they're all going into domain, learn business, understand the business process. I think their legacy companies or banks and insurance hold a lot of value because a lot of business processes that's still running for the last 10 years, 15 years, you can bring in a process efficiency there, right? And also understand how you can bring in reliability improvement, right? See, there are gaps and breakages, and which is where we see NPAs and banks and insurances going above the threshold, etc. Bring in reliability improvement. But to do this, what you need at 10 years of a career to reach that level, you can reach it in probably 6 months to 10 months. And that's the career advantage that a lot of people starting their career today. I wish I had that. I wish I had all of the data that was available to me, all of the tool stack that was available to me a decade back, probably deployed a lot more, right? And that's a very good vantage point for people here.
Best time to be Govind. I mean, honestly, for young folks, couldn't have been a better time. It's exciting. For anybody who's willing to learn, this is probably the best time to be in the industry.
Right, and that's a good moment or a wonderful moment to pause for a second because we will go into Q&A and we've got some questions and answers coming up. But in the meanwhile, I do thank you for a rich and honest and candid discussion on what real transformation looks like. We've talked about healthcare to BFSI, that's banking, financial services, to education. Gen AI is indeed in action and it's here to stay, as we know and as we've heard. So it's time for the Q&A session now. I've got about 4 or 5 questions. So let me start with the first one. It says, what's your perspective on companies replacing people with AI? So it's I'm throwing it open. Anyone who jumps in first can answer.
I can take that up.
Go ahead.
Couple of our friends, organizations, and partners are all embracing AI. They're not throwing people out just because they're embracing AI. In fact, what I'm seeing is an uptick, and I think Ashish can add on as well. There are more net new projects coming on board, asking us to get AI enabled, AI embraced use cases, build that AI foundation. I think Vijay laid that. I think there are a lot more opportunities opening up. I think Gopali laid it out really well at the start, right? If you embrace AI, or embrace a very strong data/AI technology, you're going to be solidifying your position in whichever company that you're working for. I don't think companies will let you off just by embracing AI. But there's a new pattern that you see today, and a couple of CEOs have gone public on LinkedIn and said before the next hire, they want to make a case that this process cannot be done with AI-led tools or agentic tools in particular. So there is going to be a lot of questioning before new roles starts coming up. But when it comes up, it's gonna be at a massive scale. I'll also highlight one paradox, right? So it's the automation paradox. If you're not familiar with it, I will ask you all to read about it. More automation comes in, human becomes all the more important. We have autopilot in flights, but what's more important is the pilot being there and navigating through the difficult situation. So humans and technologists like us are all the more important. So continue evolving, continue building your careers, learning, and you'll have a fantastic way ahead from there.
Right, and yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, Govind. I was just adding to what Ashwin mentioned. I mean, what we have to look at AI and again, people worrying about jobs and those aspects. Like Ashwin said, it's going to only add to what we have. We also have to put in perspective. Look at the global population we have, 8.5 billion people. The amount of data being generated all the time is just going to go up and up. It is not humanly possible to manage that data. So I mean, a lot of the first stuff we are seeing with generative AI is actually tackling that whole load of data which is there. It could be with healthcare, it could be with different areas. So it is tackling very incremental areas. We are obviously trying to force fit at times into our own existing systems at times, and that's still being experimented and seeing, how that works out. But largely, this is also needed for the scale at which the globe is operating. You will need that amount of automation, and usually it's in areas where humans anyway can't go through that much, say, unstructured data or documents and stuff like that. So that's where it's actually being applied most, and that's where we think the biggest outcomes will also come from. Going ahead. So it will add in terms of employment and generation and all of those things, but in newer areas, like we've seen in every wave of technology, as it's happened.
Right, and I think Gopali said that this is the elephant in the room, and we should not ignore it. But she also said that 20% of me is truly me, and 80% is the part that is going to get AI enabled as we go ahead. So here's another question. It says, given that AI systems learn from historical data, how can industries ensure they are not just automating the past, but creating systems that enable forward-thinking, unbiased, and adaptive decision making?
Fantastic, Govind. Let me take that. Great question. While the AI systems have foundational capabilities to learn from the past, AI systems are designed to get feedback and think through what's now called as chain of thought, our ability to think, and these capabilities are getting embedded into large language models. So if you think about AI systems, think about them in two layers. One is a foundational language capability and context capability. And second is a thinking capability. And the thinking capability, much like as humans, we were taught something, but when we encounter new situations, we take feedback. We learn from circumstances, we learn from responses that we get, and we become better. And that fundamental thinking is starting to get embedded into our large language capability. So it's an important thing to be aware of. So we don't use these capabilities as black box and think of them as either constraining or not constraining. Both these extremes interpretations are incorrect and harmful. But if you critically evaluate and design solutions in a manner that they can learn, AI does have the capability to make sure they can take you forward and not just reflect what they've learned in the past.
Okay, Vijayant or Ashwin, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at, legacy data and that's what, a lot of our partners like Accenture do, is when you actually look at a large scale data transformation, you're looking at seeing what data to bring in, what not to bring in. Right, and that's where a whole lot of process and study goes in saying, okay, this is the kind of data I need in my lake warehouse for analytics, etc. This is what I don't need. So it's an opportunity to sort of refresh what you get in as well. You also start looking at other sources, to the point made that newer stuff. Now should I get in my unstructured data into the into the mix out of into the lake, and then we look at outcomes coming out of that. So we're seeing that strategy everywhere. And then I was speaking to a very very senior leader in the transport sector sometime back, and he said, I want to do something completely. Whatever is happening is too complex right now. I can't touch it. But what I do want to do is all these vehicles, which are on the road right now, generating IoT data, etc. I want to pick that up, get those signals, and do something in terms of fleet management and all of those things. So we're seeing both the approaches where people are seeing that this technology can drive outcomes very quickly. The important thing is the method and the way you go about it, and that's where a lot of sort of thinking, strategy, planning goes into the process, especially if you are in an organization which has been there for a while and you're sitting on lots of interesting data. So that it's a people process thing again, along with the tech which comes along. The only thing is that generative AI is now giving them the idea, saying that you can now get insights much faster. In fact, we had a customer who we were speaking to, and he said that, can your Cortex AI talk to my SAP data straight away? Can I just query it straight away? The answer is yes, you can. So what that actually does is it disintermediates a whole lot of stuff in between, but it's not so simple. You need to decide, how you want to do it and how you want to extract it, etc. Similarly, if you look at, say, something like a new LLM, Gopali talked about it, right? Every week there's a new LLM coming by. Most organizations, do they have the capacity to analyze that before they bring it in? And that's where, say, platforms like Snowflake in our environment, DeepSeek came 2 weeks, we had it inside the platform. So we give a choice of LLMs, and because that's basically what, say, the platform does. And that's exactly what, say, an Accenture does in terms of strategy for data and AI. So it's important that customers, take advantage of organizations who are best in breed doing what they do, and then do the transformations.
Right.
I'll just
And,
add one line to it, Govind,
yeah.
right? So I think when we speak about data foundation, I think when we go agentic, right, we're talking about traditional AI, then we go into agentic AI as well. We're not just talking about data foundation, we're talking about model foundation, process, and the tool stacks as well. So if you take a function of 4, it's data, model, process, and tools as well as a function. A solid data foundation ensuring the data that's going in, you're answering a question on reliable outcomes. And avoiding all these governance issues, you need to have data that is trustable and trackable with signatures that determine which model is consuming it, etc. Then the model, right? Model that's context aware, being able to choose the right model depending on the context. A classic example that we encounter is revenue. Revenue in India is different from revenue in the US, which is how revenue is calculated in terms of dollar, euro, INR, right? A simple function, but adding that context becomes more important for the model to then take the right decision. The tools that you choose, what are you choosing? Is it an OSS stack? Is it a best of breed? Are you living on a platform like Snowflake, Databricks? All of that matters in helping you make it all successful because governance become an easier denominator as well. Last but not the least is the process. As we go agentic, that's another topic on its own. We can talk 1 hour on just on it, right? The process that we all encounter needs to be documented and given for training and evaluation. That's a task on its own. All of this drives to more responsible, reliable AI foundation in my point of view.
Right. And, we'll be heading to close shortly. So I've got 2 questions and let me combine them. So one is about manufacturing and the other is about agriculture and agri-tech. So the question really is, how is AI reshaping manufacturing with automation and predictive maintenance? And sort of parallel question, given the limited tech exposure amongst many Indian farmers, what's your perspective on using agentic AI for delivering agri-advisory services? So over to you. You can pick one of the 2 or both as you wish.
I'll take a manufacturing example because I was talking to a customer very recently. This is they're a glass manufacturer. They have a couple of companies without naming them, right? Couple of industries that is spread across. They started doing and documenting what their people on the shop floor were doing into agents and AI applications. That's the first thing that they started, right? Taking in sensor data, humans were acting on the signals that were available to them. They want to automate the shop floor to a larger extent. And manufacturing in particular will have a significant impact because it impacts in terms of the knowledge that people possess on the shop floor. Unlike IT, right, where there were documented process, documented methodologies, there were a lot of intelligence, a lot of data that was available just at the people level on the shop floor. Taking that and elevating that is one common use case that I've heard, not just from this customer, but from other customers as well. So manufacturing is going to be revolutionizing in a big bang. May follow suit in terms of some of the other industries that we discussed, right? Insurance, healthcare, and life sciences, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I think the latest Economist had a nice article on this as well, saying that how industries from ports, logistics management at ports to mining to steel, in not just in the developed countries, but even in second world countries are using AI for greater efficiency. Yes. Was it you, Ashish?
Ashish. Yeah. So Govind, I was just on your second part on agri, not getting specifically to agri. The way we are seeing Gen AI is think of this as building a new user interface. If so far we used to have individuals adapt to a software, right? You had a certain interface defined and you'll, as a user, figure out how do I work with this capability. What Gen AI is starting to do is kill that whole narrative of individuals having to adapt to interfaces and make interaction adaptable. So the reason I'm bringing this out is from a citizen perspective, and we're doing this as a firm, as a sovereign AI capability across various countries, is enabling citizens communicate with the power of AI and agentic capability and engage. So imagine farmers today, if language was a barrier, if ability to understand was a barrier, if ability to engage with technology was a barrier, all of a sudden, all of these barriers no longer exist, and you could get the best advice and capability available to them in a manner that they would want to, than us telling them as to this is how you could get access to these solutions. So to me, it's just a matter of time, and which is why this is the best time to be in AI, when all of these capabilities change the way and democratize the consumption in a manner that's really impactful.
Right.
Yeah,
So sorry.
go ahead.
Just two examples, and again, it's such an interesting topic, right? I mean, we have an ecosystem of ISV partners who build on top of the Snowflake platform, and there are two very interesting companies which come to mind on manufacturing and agriculture. The first is a AI partner or a ISV partner called Landing.ai. Now, what they've done is just like you have LLMs, you have large, vision models as well. And what they do is, they basically are able to, through vision, look at the shop floor, look at anomalies, and look at other stuff, pick up those patterns, and just completely change that whole process, revolutionize it. So LVMs is one big thing. Landing.ai. The second is an Indian ISV called Grow Indigo. Now, it's a collaboration between Myco, which is in the agriculture sector, and Indigo AG, which is in Europe. Now, what they do is basically they help small scale farmers to do carbon trading, right? Again, picking up patterns, satellite photographs, all of that. I'll encourage everyone to go to their website, Grow Indigo. Amazing work they're doing. They got about 2 million acres right now, which is enrolled in 10 states in India. And a whole amount of stuff they're able to give back in terms of income to even small scale farmers in terms of carbon trading. So real innovation, happening with real use cases out there.
Right, and this also tells us in some ways about where the opportunities are. I mean, they need not be in Bangalore or Mumbai. Okay, a 30-second television style sum up from all of you before we close. So I'm going to go reverse. Vijay, let me begin with you. So our starting point was AI in action transforming industry. So from your vantage point, once again, the one challenge and the one opportunity.
I think the one challenge is data. And getting that right so that you get trusted, secure outcomes. The opportunity is just unlimited, and it is in every vertical, every industry we can think of. For individuals on this call, I'll just request them that stay on top, and the learning curves are going to be quick, and we just need to be. You need to ensure that we are updated with what's happening, because changes are happening very fast. So the good thing is, though, I mean, the learning also is happening fast. It's you can snack it, in smaller bites as well. So I would strongly encourage everyone to just make sure you're continuously learning in this space. It's changing very fast.
Right, and that's the answer that talent is looking forward to as well. Ashwin, challenge, opportunity aimed at talent. Yeah.
Wonderful. Vijay kind of summarize it, right? The solid data foundation is important for your AI success, goes without saying. Ensuring that the data is available in the first place, make it trustable, make it governable, make it available for all your AI models to work. I think that's going to be an important challenge that all the organizations are facing. And that's probably one of the reasons a lot of these AI models and AI agentic experiments that people are doing are not reaching production stage. And I think that's an area that organization needs to fix. But the opportunity is to reimagine every workflow that we're doing currently. Whichever role you do, whatever is your business function or processes, it is very important to reimagine that with AI. I think, or be left behind. I think that's how I would like to summarize. I think opportunity is immense, particularly for people on this call, particularly if you're early in your careers or you're just out of college and looking to enter workforce. The opportunity is immense across the AI landscape, whether you want to specialize on data, whether you want to specialize on AI or on software engineering. AI enabled makes it an acceleration for you. You can probably learn and become better version of yourself faster than a lot of us on this call are today. I think that's a massive opportunity ahead of you. Embrace it. Humans would never go out of work.
And I'm sure you should join Ashwin's communities, as I look forward to joining and learning as well. It's over to you, Ashish.
I think the challenge for everybody else listening in is the speed and velocity of change. And to me, that's also an opportunity. The flip side to that for all of us here is the extent of opportunities opening up is just unimaginable. What it will mean is opportunity for everybody. Think about people who are experts in business, who want to approach this from a business perspective. There is going to be a wave of reimagination of how work happens. For people who are more technology oriented, there is an opportunity for us because a lot of what we will build is going to be built in the future. For those who are more oriented towards change, working with individuals to make sure this is sustainable, there's opportunity for you. So to me, there's an opportunity, whichever way you look at it. What will be required is a hunger to learn, a constant ability to be on your toes, and make sure that you actively engage with problems and build real solutions. So to me, that's the most exciting part and why we think AI is in action.
Right. Thank you for that, Ashish, Ashwin, and Vijayan. I think you've given us a very good sense on why industries are transforming, what is driving them, and the opportunities that lie within industries and outside because of that desire to change and to really be more responsive and be ready for this new world of course, ever demanding customers, whether it's product or services. So, you've given us what I would call a fairly 360-degree view, and why, as a young person venturing into the real world, so to speak, this is an opportunity like never before, as one of you said. So that's a wrap on Day 2. We've seen how Gen AI is no longer experimental. It's powering solutions across banking, retail, healthcare, and more. The message is clear. AI is not just coming, but it's already here. So join us tomorrow for another exciting day where we will learn about driving AI at scale, where we will go behind the scenes on how to take AI from concept to enterprise-wide execution. So be ready to log in by 3 p.m. and see you then. And it's thank you once again from all of us.